Hi, it's Paul from Model Builder International. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down there and also click the bell so you get notified of all the future videos and the future giveaways and all the other stuff. Today we're going to have a look at a brand new kit from Flyhawk. This is their 1/700th HMS Lively. HMS Lively was an L-class destroyer of the Royal Navy. She served during the Second World War and was sunk in the Mediterranean in an air attack on the 11th of May 1942. Commissioned in 1941, she was briefly active in home waters, but was soon reassigned to the Mediterranean, where she was active as part of the Mediterranean Fleet and Force K based at Malta. She took part in escorting several convoys to and from Malta, as well as intercepting enemy supply convoys to North Africa. She took part in the First and Second Battles of Sirte and was damaged on a number of occasions in air and surface attacks. She was eventually sunk off Tobruk in May 1942. Despite a wartime career lasting less than a year, since her commissioning she won 5 battle honours. And there's more information about her on Wikipedia. As for the history in plastic, as far as I can tell, no one has ever done a kit of HMS Lively before. The best you've ever been able to do is to get a kit of another L-class destroyer and just call it HMS Lively. Okay, let's have a look and see what we get inside the box. So this is FH1121, HMS Lively, 1941, one of the L-class destroyers. It says their full hull by Flyhawk. So look on here, it says metal gun barrels ×8 are in the box, full hull, 1/700th scale. On the back here we've got a picture of 2 forthcoming releases, Scharnhorst 1940 and HMS Agincourt 1915. That's the one with 7 turrets that were named after the days of the week. So those 2 releases should do quite well. Looking forward to those. So to start with, we get box art and a bit of background for HMS Lively. She didn't have an awfully long life, as a lot of British destroyers were sunk in the Mediterranean, just like this one. And then we get the instructions, as per Flyhawk's usual sort of format, a long thin sheet. We'll have a closer look at those when we go through them. But basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps plus a painting guide, all in colour. And then we have all effects are in plastic bags. Bigger parts are in their own plastic bag. Those. When we come down here, there's the brass barrels as promised, along with the decals. Here's the ship's hull. Oops. So what I'll do is I'll get everything out of the bags and have a quick look at them. Okay, so there's the top part of the hull, porthole detail, there's plate detail on the side there. There will of course be the usual loads of photographs of all these sprues and close-ups of the sprues on the website. So it's pretty neat. A base plate in case you want to do it just waterline. And there's the lower hull, strakes on the bottom. So we can try and do that. It's pretty neat. There's the aft part of the deck. See, there's raised detail on there. Not a wooden deck, or a metal deck on this one. There's nice detail. There's the forecastle, anchor, chain, holes, and that'll go on there, something like that. He said. It's all falling apart now. Oh well. So then we have Sorted sprues, again, their usual small parts, really fine attachment points, so I might be using a saw a lot to take these parts off and keep an eye on them. Ship's boats with detail inside, top of the funnel there, which, you know, some places you might replace with photo etch, but the level of detail on these parts is really good. Torpedo tubes there, detail on the other side. The thing about Flyhawk is they have some really fine detailing on their plastic parts. Main superstructure parts, or the bigger parts. Portholes, detail on the side of the superstructure. Very crisply moulded. There's the gun shields. What do we have down here? I think that's the actual guns themselves, which you can replace with brass. Those might be the anti-aircraft guns actually, but we'll see. Ship's funnel, hollow, top and bottom. Another piece of superstructure with some really nice work on there. Masts and propellers. Again, definitely have to cut those out carefully so as not to break them. Propeller shafts are on there as well. These are smaller guns, anti-aircraft guns. And here we have one of our dinghies, again with detail in the bottom of them, and this one's searchlights. So what I'll do is I'll take a bunch of photographs of all the parts, and then what we'll do is we'll go through the instructions, have a look at each of the steps, see what happens on each of the steps, and have a close-up look at some of the parts where appropriate, and see what we get. Inside the box we get one long colour instruction sheet, 8 brass barrels, a small decal sheet, about 206 plastic parts and 14 sprues, plus 6 other larger parts. I will make mention of the fact that this is not just a straight copy of their earlier Legion and Lance kits. There are subtle differences in the instructions which reflect the difference between the three ships. So you do get subtle differences, and obviously the Lance had a small PE sheet, this one has brass barrels, so there's differences there as well. You can also get a photo etch sheet separately from this kit to upgrade it along with masks. The ship is built in 7 steps. Step 1 starts with putting the hull together. You've got a 2-part main deck reflecting the forecastle and the main deck at 2 different levels. You have the option of building her full hull or just waterline, and also in step 1 you add the rudder and 2 propellers, assuming that you want to do the full hull version. Steps 2 and 3. Step 2, you cut off the plastic barrels, replace them with the brass barrels. Brass barrels are pretty small, you're going to have to pay attention when you're doing that part. Note that the HMS Lance, you had a photo etch part to use for the anchor chain, and you don't get that on this kit. Step 3, building the main bridge, putting together a few small parts, just the same as on the other kits. Steps 4 and 5. Step 4, you're putting together the main superstructure, the main bridge, the second gun turret, some other small parts. And again, there's a few small differences between the other L-class ships they've done. Step 5, again some small subtle differences. The ship's masts are done in plastic, but they're very fine. It should look quite nice, but you'll have to pay attention when you're getting them off the sprue. Step 6 at the top, sort of assuming it starts with the funnel and anti-aircraft guns and the ship's boats on the left hand side. Ship's boats got some really nice detail in them. Funnel is hollow and 1 part and looks quite nice. and then you add the funnel, torpedo tubes, ship's boats, anti-aircraft gun amidships, along with some life rafts. A lot of fine detail here, and again some small differences from the other L-class ships. Step 7 at the bottom, aft end of the ship, adding in all the small parts that are left to be fitted, the last 2 turrets, various davits, depth charge throwers, depth charge rails. Again, lots of small details here, but it'll be worth the effort at the end. Again, it's different to the other ships. The earlier ships had a little bit of photo etch, which went back here. This one doesn't, but as I said, there's a detail upset available for this one separately. All in all, pretty neat. Next on to paint and decals. Paints are called out by name: Mr. Hobby, Tamiya and White Ensign. She was only afloat for less than 12 months, so there's only one reasonable paint scheme, which looks reasonably straightforward. The masking sheet that's available separately might come in useful for painting the deck, the 2 colours. There's basically some different coloured walkways that go fore and aft. But there's plenty there. You also get a small decal sheet. It's the same decal sheet as the other ships, so it has the ship's numbers for a few ships. Obviously the only one you really use is the one G40 for HMS Lively. So an overall conclusion, it's the only kit of HMS Lively that's anywhere close to accurate you're gonna find anywhere, since nobody's ever done one before. 200 parts in the plastic kit. If memory serves right, if you get the detail upset, there's probably about another 100 parts of photo etch on there, which will really increase both the build time and the level of detail. So overall it should do quite well. It's a nice kit. Flyhawk's kits have an awful lot of fine detail on them, so you have to be careful working with them. But other than that, you'll end up with something that's a really nice little kit. And many thanks to Flyhawk for sending it along for us to have a look at.